Toyota's luxury division, Lexus, makes quite a lot of attractive cars. They also make a lot of hybrids. I think this is probably the best of both of those worlds. This is the 2015 Lexus CT 200H. So starting here at the nose, we of course have Lexus's nice spindle grille. On this, with the chrome on top and the split in the middle with the nice dark gray in the center, like, it looks really nice, looks great compared to a lot of the spindle grilles we look on a lot of cars. Of course, being a hybrid, you got the big Lexus with the blue in the middle. But look at these headlamps, this nice crisp cut and that chrome in the middle. Look how angry these fog lights look. The whole thing just looks really sporty and aggressive. It's wonderful. That sort of angry, aggressive theme just carries on through the whole car. There's even extra angry body lines. You see this crease that runs across the top. This one down here on the bottom that kicks up here at the end above the hybrid badge. Even the mirror looks like it wants to go fast with this little swing cut and this beautiful chrome piece, and it's all sharp and angular. It's fantastic. And you move to the back and you still get the same angry touches. We got these great taillights that are dark with these bright red streaks. Look at that cut. It's a little bit of an L like the Lexus shape, but it's big and it's bulbous and sticks out. We've got what looks like a diffuser down here. Nice rear wing on the back here, nice and big and chunky. They even blacked out the pillars on the back. Like, look at that. Everything about this is just fast and dynamic and sort of angry, and it's not like what you expect the Lexus to be, especially one that's essentially a Prius. And yes, I did say Prius, because if you lift the hood, you'll find the Lexus Hybrid Drive, which in this model is actually just a Prius motor. This is the same 1.8 liter gasoline engine you get in a Prius, made into the same set of batteries, which has the same electric motor. So then what we appear to have is a Toyota Prius in a go faster suit. But does it actually go faster? Well, we're gonna have to drive to find out. So, riding around in the CT 200H is actually a pretty pleasurable thing. The interior, just like the outside, is very nice. It's very attractive in here. I've got highly bolstered seats that are made of leather with contrast stitching. I've got a nice leather wheel here with some contrast stitching on the inside. My door panel is leather. I've got leather and contrast stitching here on the center console. I've got it up here on the instrument binnacle. There's leather everywhere. Directly below the camera, there is a big, like 8 or 9 inch screen that handles all my infotainment system. It's controlled by Lexus's fancy little mouse thing on the center console. And it's just kind of a nice place to be. This is a sportier Lexus, so the chassis is a little bit stiffer, the ride's a little bit rougher. So the car's got some decent handling. Steering is weighted well, responds quickly. Still not a lot of feedback, but it does at least listen to your commands and it responds just in an instant. Like I said, there's good weight to it, and the chassis is fairly well sorted, so even as I throw it into this fairly tough bend here at speed, the car just sort of kicks and hangs, and not a lot of drama. You don't get nearly as much understeer as you would expect unless you're really, really, really being stupid with it. And of course, a big part of that has to do with the batteries. There's a big chunk of batteries sitting underneath that back seat, which help even out the weight front to back of the car, give you much better weight balance so you don't have as much weight sitting on those front tires. Even though I may be on eco-friendly tires, these are fairly wide eco-friendly tires, and they're fairly low profile. So I've got a stiff sidewall, and that helps with the handling, keeps the tire from rolling under. So far, so good in this thing in the way it sort of feels like a sporty car. And in fact, I even have a sport button, well, sport knob, down here on the console, just like I do in something like the Lexus GS hybrid that I had, which I enjoyed quite a lot. So the car has pretty decent handling. Steering is all right. The seats are great and nicely bolstered. It's very comfortable in here. Of course, I have all the equipment you could want. I've got cruise control, satellite navigation, satellite radio. I've got a CD player. All that sort of stuff's here. But where it falls down is the thing that's sitting underneath the hood. So I mentioned that this is essentially just a Prius in a fancy suit. And that's all it is. This car has no more horsepower than the other car, than a standard Prius. So what that means is I have a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine that's making 98 horsepower and 105 pound-feet of torque. That's it. Now, yes, I do have the electric motor that's coupled to that, and when you're really on it, the motor and the engine will combine to give you 134 horsepower, but that's not a lot. It's not a lot at all. And so what you end up with is a 0 to 60 time that Lexus says is about 9.8 seconds. In my testing, I've yet to break 8, or I'm sorry, I've yet to break 10. So at 9.8, I've not gotten there. I'm always at like a 10 or a 10.1. So I'm just a few tenths off of what they say. And this thing only has a top speed of 113 miles an hour. So it is far from a barnstormer, and that's the biggest problem with it. So if you watched my Prius V review, you will note that I loved the hell out of that thing. And it's because, while not being the fastest thing in the world, it's fun and it's silly, and driving it like that, you know, with like a lot of aggression, is just sort of awkward and entertaining because it's not what the car is made for. This, on the other hand, just feels kind of bad because you've got this big heavy steering, you've got these great bolstered seats, you know, the handling is awesome, and you can, I mean, if you can pick up speed, you can drive and drive and drive, and you can throw it into a corner with just incredible pace. Brakes are great, and as soon as you come out the other side and you stand on the pedal, nothing happens. And so this car almost feels like a really nice hot hatch that they forgot to put an engine into. And it just becomes frustrating because everything else about the car is great. It looks like $1 million inside and out. It feels like that same $1 million. The steering wheel is nice. I like the way it's sculpted. The leather feels great. All the equipment is just wonderful. You know, I don't have a single complaint about this car until you really start to beat on it, because it makes you want to go fast. I mean, I've got a sport mode here, for crying out loud, and a traction control button. I can turn the traction control off. You can't do that in a Prius. But again, you hit these awesome brakes, and you make a hard turn, and as soon as you straighten out, you stand on the pedal, nothing. Nothing. You have this CVT that winds the engine out, and you get noise. Lots of drony noise. I'm just now doing 60. So there's no speed to go with it. You know, it's all show, no go. And it's just so frustrating. Because again, everything about this car is just great. If Lexus had decided to put like a small turbocharged engine in the front of this thing, like this would be a great hot hatch. Like this would be like a GTI fighter. It's a little pricey for something like that, but you get the idea of how it feels, how it handles. I mean, you can swing it into a corner and it sticks. There's almost no understeer. There's almost no body roll. Again, the steering is great. The brakes are fantastic. Like everything about this car is so good, and there's just no grunt to go with it, and that is so disappointing. But getting away from the drive and more to what you get, this thing again is just a Prius, but this one costs $37,865. I do get a lot of niceties, as we've covered: the great leather, all the equipment like the satellite nav and all that sort of stuff, the sunroof, but you can get a decked out Prius for about 30 grand, and that is a standard Prius level 5 or whatever they call it, with the fancy fake leather seats and the navigation, all that sort of stuff. And so it's 8 grand cheaper than this, and that has more space than this because it doesn't have a low sloping roof line. That has a bigger trunk than this does, again because of the way the hatch is made and the roof line. And so it's almost as nice, has the same amount of power, but it's more spacious. It's also will probably be more fuel efficient. Fuel economy has also been a bit of an issue for me in this car. It is rated at 40 highway with a 43 city and then a 42 combined. But I'm averaging just under 40, well not just, I'm averaging 39.2. Again, I have been a little rough to it, but not any rougher than I was to the Prius V that I tested a few months back. This car just, I don't know if it's a weight thing because of all the extra leather and niceties, but the fuel economy just isn't quite where I want it to be. Now granted, 39.2 miles per gallon is great, especially for a car that handles like this. But then when you remember that it has basically no power, things sort of start to even out again. So I want to like this car so bad. It is probably my favorite Lexus on the way of looks, especially with this beautiful white paint on the outside. And it's been one of my favorite Lexuses to drive, because again, I've got this great steering, I've got this planted chassis, like that's all good, and I just, give me more horsepower. Ugh. This car is so close to perfect, so close to perfect. But anyways, once again, I am Christian Mo. This is the 2015 Lexus CT 200H. It is a less practical, much better handling Prius that looks like $1 million, but in the end it's still just a Prius. And for an $8,000 price hike over a nicely equipped Prius, I'm just not sure it's worth the money. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. As always, I will be back next week with another car review. You guys are doing real good at hitting those comments, subscribing, telling your friends. I appreciate that. But until next time, I'm gonna try and beat on my hybrid a little bit more here, and I'll see you guys next week.